Dean, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing all right. Pleasure to meet you.
You as well.
What's happening? You
Sorry,
got
I don't have a fancy background. I tried that
well.
once. Everybody got mad because I like seeing the pictures and everything.
All right. So what do we got going on here? There's a lot going on, and I can't really zoom in on it. What do you got behind you?
Sports, and comics.
Sports and comics. What sport in particular? Or are you kind of just a generalist?
Right now it's football season, so
Hmm.
football.
Who's your team?
My team's the Seahawks, but I also keep an eye on the Steelers because Russell Wilson plays for the Steelers.
I like both of those teams. I feel well. I went to school up in Buffalo. I'm a Giants fan, and it's been a rough. We'll call it 10 years. Being a Giant fan just as bad as being a Jet fan. I think being a Jet fan is worse because your expectations are higher, right? Like you think you're going to have
Yeah.
a good team. You think, you got Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest of all time, and he's just terrible, which kind of opens a conversation. You could have the best talent, but culture matters, right?
Oh, definitely. And by the way, I grew up in New York, so believe me, I know. But I was a Buffalo fan when I lived in New York.
So I went to school up in Buffalo. So the Bills are my AFC team. I give them a shot. But I kind of like Pitts. I like Pittsburgh's energy. I always kind of felt drawn to that Pittsburgh team. They have and always winning. And I also love about Pittsburgh is the tenure and longevity of their coaches.
Hmm.
What are they? They've had like 4 coaches in the last 100 years, something like that. Some crazy
Something
stat.
like that. The guy that's been there now has been there, I think, 12 or 14 years. I can't recall right off the top of my head.
He's been there. Tomlin's been there. He's been there a long time. So for anyone out there, Dean, tell us who you are and what you do best.
Oh, I suck at this. Well,
Just
what
tell
I
me what
don't
you
do
do for a
best,
living. Literally, it's just another way of saying tell us who you are and what you do.
yeah, what I don't do best is talk about myself. My name is Dean DaCosta. I am a sourcing research type person. I work for Lockheed Martin. I've been around for 30 plus years. I have a YouTube page. I have a tool I created. I'm on LinkedIn, although I don't put anything personal on LinkedIn. I put that on Facebook.
There you go.
Um, and I just, I try to help people as best I can. I have about 20 hours a week I set aside to help people. All I got to do is email me and I'll get on a call and try to help them with whatever,
That's
whether
great.
it's finding something or learning something or finding a job or whatever. Um, yeah, that's really about it. Like I said, I'm not very good at pontificating about myself.
Well, that's all. But listen, you've been around the block, man. Well, first of all, I could see that you're a veteran, so thank you so much for your service here.
Thank you.
How's your experience and what branch were you?
Army.
What is that correlation from experience in Army to sourcing and recruiting? Where is really that connection where you've transitioned those skills and experience that you learned while you're in the Army to recruiting and sourcing?
Well, I got out of the Army shortly after the Persian Gulf War, medical. And the last year I was there, a lot of people were getting out. And so I helped, along with a friend of mine, create something to help these people find jobs. So we called it reverse recruiting because instead of
Mm,
finding people, we were finding the
right.
job. And that's kind of where it was. And then when I got out, we moved to Seattle where my wife's family is, and I just got lucky and got into a company where they wanted a veteran.
Mm.
And I think as far as the correlation goes, it's just a matter of we don't give up. We tend to pay a lot of attention to almost everything, and we just keep going until the job's done. And that's just the way it is.
The perseverance and making sure that the job is
Yeah,
done. Like we're not stopping until whatever the task is in front of us, we're going to complete it. We're
exactly.
going to solve the problem. We're going to find solutions. We're going to be solutions
And
oriented.
we're very loyal, and that means
And
not just to the company we work for, but to the people we work with. I've got a guy. My first job when I got out of the military, so this is 1995. We're still friends, and I got him his first contract job, and we've stayed in contact ever since. And we just are good friends. I'm good friends with a lot of people. I got several of my hired into Microsoft when I worked there, and we're still very close to each other. Um, so there's a loyalty thing there. We just kind of, hey, that's you know
that's what you do. So let's talk about TA week coming up. You'll be there with another friend of ours, Mr. Steve Levy, and
Yep.
your topic is sourcing magic,
Yep.
revealing the secrets to finding talent. Well, for everyone out there who's listening, let's give a little bit of alpha. Let's give a little sneak preview. What are you and Steve going to be talking about? Let's talk about some of these secrets
We're
now.
going to be talking
All out
about
there.
a bunch of different things. So, some tools that can help you out, like an example, quick example. There's a site called BizConnect that has org charts, but you got to pay for them. Otherwise, they're
Mm.
blurred out. Well, there's
Well,
a way to still see everything. You just got to know how. Now you're
Ooh.
probably thinking an org chart. Well, how does that help me find people? Well, if you're looking for a VP, they're going to be on the org chart. If you're looking for a senior director, they're going to be on the org chart. So it allows you to target a company as well as a position. But
Well,
again, they blur it out unless you pay for it. But there's a way around that. Then
can you find that on LinkedIn though? Can I search the company and put in VP and they'll just come up?
Not always. Not everybody is on LinkedIn, contrary to popular belief. I'll give you an example. LinkedIn says, or as Steve calls it, the Blue Devil. The Blue
Ew,
Devil
the Blue
says,
Devil.
yes, the comic book
Is it
hero.
that Cialit? No, sorry.
No, the Blue Devil actually
Oh,
was a comic book hero.
right.
Anyway, he says that they say there's a million people. Well, once you get rid of duplicate people, fake
Hmm.
profiles that don't tell you anything,
Right.
and deceased people, yes, there are a lot of dead people on LinkedIn because LinkedIn won't let the families remove them. There's only about 800,000. Well, if we take that same correlation over
We're
the
going from 1 billion to 800,000.
yeah,
You're saying
no,
90%, 90.
1 million to 800,000.
Okay,
My
got
bad, my bad. So if we take that same correlation over to Facebook, which has 3.5 billion, and we use the same numbers, that's 1.5 billion left. 800,000, 1.5 billion. I'm pretty sure the billion's bigger than the, if we and 6% of people on GitHub aren't on LinkedIn, and I can go
right,
on and on and on and
right.
on.
So this
There's
tools like this are going to be helpful, of course.
yeah. So there's a tool out there, semi new, called Jobin that has 3.2 um, billion people in it in its
Jobbing.
database. So obviously LinkedIn doesn't have everybody, and it just
Huh.
doesn't.
Yeah, not everybody's on LinkedIn. You have to opt into LinkedIn, right? I mean, there's
Exactly. The other thing is the org chart not only lets you know find the people you want, but to let you know who they report to, who reports to them. It just gives you so much more information. Um, and then, of course, with LinkedIn, you're limited to their in-mails, which, well,
right.
according to them, a 15% reply rate on in-mails is really
Much lower than I think it's lower than that. I mean, based
well.
on
They're
my
saying
experience.
I'm trying to be nice. They're saying 15%. I actually get higher, but most on
Well,
average is lower.
the other thing you have to remember about in-mails too is what account is it tied to from the email that you signed up for. A lot of people might have signed up years ago with like a Yahoo or an Opt Online or some other weird cable email, and they don't get any notifications about in-mail from in their inbox. And how often they're looking at their messages. Not
70,
everybody is like not
70
everybody's like us that literally is glued to LinkedIn because that's our business. We live on LinkedIn from a business perspective. There's
70% of non-recruiters do not check their emails but once a quarter.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with connection requests as well too, and there's other ways, and there's so many cool tools. There's so many cool tools out there. So
Just find their email. You know where they work. Find their work email. If you don't like emailing someone at work, just go ahead and search their work email. I guarantee you, it's connected to them somewhere else, and their personal emails there.
let me ask you a question here. For our
Sure,
production team is curious. Does that mug travel with you? Are you going to bring that mug with you to San Diego? Like, do you wrap it, like bubble wrap it?
I might. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I have two of these. So
Is it a
interesting
travel
story
mug, a
though.
travel
This
version?
will go with me though.
Well,
And
of
I
course.
learned this lesson at another conference where if I took the hat off and nobody knew who I was, I put it on, everybody knew who I was. So I've come to the conclusion they don't know me. They just know this hat. So
And rightfully so, and I mean this in the best way possible. It gets you on the plane first, right? It gets you on the plane first. You got to take advantage of that. Anyway, to get on the plane first, you do it. I bring a fake baby. If my kids aren't with me, I just bring a fake baby, and then I just throw it in my backpack when I'm done. I'm like I'm traveling with an infant in arms.
back in the day when I traveled to Bellevue, I used to use my backpack and put a coat around it so it looked like I had another person so I could ride in the HOV lanes.
There you go. So let's talk about some modern tools out there. You
Sure.
and I are playing in the Wayback Machine. Overall, your thoughts in AI sourcing. Is it here to stay? Is it going to take the jobs of sourcers? As I like to say, I think 80% of a lot of recruiters are going to be out of work in the next 5 to 7 years.
You just hit my second soapbox. The first one was LinkedIn. My second soapbox is AI. So humor me a minute. I'm looking. Okay, do you see C3PO or R2D2 behind me? There ain't no such thing as AI yet. It's not AI. It's just machine learning on steroids. It's not an AI.
Right, and I agree with you from a semantics perspective. They need to just put a marketing label on it,
But
right? It's
AI
machine
is
learning.
sexier than machine learning on steroids, so I get it. I think AI as it stands right now, and I do use AI. Perplexity is the one I prefer. It makes some things easier for me. It's not going to replace me. If I ask it to write a Boolean string, the string is not correct. It's decent, but it's not
Well,
optimized or
it's
correct.
also about the inputs, right? Like we're getting there.
We are getting there. In time, it will, but the reality is still this: you still have to be able to go in and be what's the right word?
Human.
Be able to go in and say, okay, here's what it wrote, and it didn't get me what I want. So let's modify and do this. Let's modify it. You still got to have that ability to be flexible enough to go in and change it when the initial string does not work, or you have to
Somebody
go back
don't.
and do it again. And it's a pain in the butt to keep doing it. I've been asking, I have access to about 12 different AIs, and none of them can write me a correct Boolean string. They can get me close, but not quite. And
And
then if I go in there and it's not 100% correct,
your search won't be good.
I can't. It takes me more time to ask it to modify it than it is for me to just modify it. And by the way, I have timed it. I can write a Boolean string faster than it can.
And I also think the other problem too is a lot of maybe more junior or lazy recruiters and not as skilled recruiters. They're taking that result from AI as gospel, and it's an incorrect search.
And it's and
There's
exactly.
other ways you could use it, and I use different kind of prompts and techniques to distill a job description down. Say not just give me the boolean, but synthesize certain keywords from it, and then I use the pieces like that, and I write it myself.
You know how I use it? Right. Create a list of all words that mean Java developer.
Mm,
Take above list and create an OR string.
right,
Hey, got my
semantics.
OR string. Doesn't mean I have my target where I'm targeting. Doesn't mean I have all the rest, but at least I have that pain in the butt part. Or take the above job description and show how the below resume matches, and it'll create a big long list of how it matches. That's fine. But I always make sure I do them things on two different ones and
Right,
then
you want to compare it.
results.
This is this is good stuff, and I think everyone out there could learn a ton from you and Steve. And I think that the panel should be like, you can teach an old dog new tricks. I would rebrand the panel. I would think we would get more folks there. But Dean, you and I could talk for hours and hours about recruiting here. Give everyone, any new recruiters out there, give them one pro tip to be successful at sourcing and recruiting.
Always ask. I'm going to give you two actually. Always ask questions
Two
and
for
remember.
Tuesday. It's two for Tuesday. Say it again. Let's start there.
Always ask questions, and number two, always remember tools come and go, but the best tool you'll ever have is your brain.
I am untooled then. I am going to be not having the right tools there, as my wife would say. She's like, what are you working with here? But I want everyone to check out Dean. I want everyone to check out TA Week. Hopefully I will be there. I think Danielle will be there. Looking forward to meeting you in person. Everyone check out that panel with the legend himself, Mr. Steve Levy and Dean DaCosta. Dean, I want to thank you. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
LinkedIn. I got a YouTube page. The Search Authority on Weebly. Twitter. I post every Monday. I post a new video and I post stuff constantly throughout the week. So just
Get
put
it?
in Dean DaCosta in Google. The first 10 pages are me.
There he is. Dean, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been fantastic.